Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to North Bethesda, Wood Glen Road. This is actually one of the first protected bike lanes that was installed in the county behind us. Later in the day, this will be a very active area with patrons at the Whole Foods Market, the restaurants and other shops here, and that's part of the reason why we've identified this as a place for 20 is plenty. I'll share more with you about how we're implementing this and what our goals are for the 20 is Plenty program, which is very exciting, and this is rounding out our investment in safer infrastructure with efforts to increase the safety of those people using our infrastructure. But I am excited to have such a great group of participants with us today. You'll be hearing from Marc Elrich, the county executive, Tom Hucker, the council president and also chair of the Transportation and Environment Committee, Andrew Friedson, the district representative for District 1, where we are located today, Evan Glass, member of the Transportation and Environment Committee and a champion for our Vision Zero program, and Kristy Daphnis, who chairs the Pedestrian, Bike, and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, which is our citizens and advocacy group, to make sure we're doing all we can to implement Vision Zero. So without any further delay, I'd like to introduce the county executive, Mr. Marc Elrich.
So thank you very much, and I'm really excited to be here today. This is another step in reducing speeds in Montgomery County and making our roadways safer. Right after I got elected, we had conversations with the state, and we were able to bring the speed limits down in our urban areas to 25 miles an hour because we knew we had to bring these speed limits down, and this is the next stage in that process. Vision Zero is an initiative to eliminate serious injury and fatalities on our county roads by 2030. Montgomery County is one of the first local governments nationally to initiate a Vision Zero plan, and we know Vision Zero is a big goal, and we're not going to reach it with any one program or effort. There's no one thing that fixes this. It's going to require a combination of efforts and a combination of plans. It's been a collective of safety features, road designs, enforcement infrastructure, engineering, highly visible programs. You can see like these cones that are standing out there in the street. You'll be seeing more of those little poles as ways of narrowing roadways and reducing speeds. So we have a whole menu of items that we can bring to bear to help reduce speeds and make our roadways safer. The 2021 regular session of the Assembly passed House Bill 562, was sponsored by the Montgomery County delegation, and it authorizes Montgomery County and municipalities to decrease the maximum speed to not less than 15 miles an hour on highways, but only after performing engineering and traffic investigation, which is why this pilot program is so important. We're doing this pilot here. We've got a bunch of other streets lined up that if it works here, it'll be expanded into other areas. So this is just the first step in moving this forward. Montgomery County is ahead of the curve nationally. We're one of the first to implement 20 is Plenty pilot. We'll be joining 6 other locations in the country, and most of them are on the West Coast. We understand that speed limits reduce traffic crashes, but more importantly, they reduce deaths. There were 9,000 crashes in Maryland that resulted in 76 deaths and over 4,000 injuries. While you're not going to eliminate every collision, the speed of a collision makes a huge difference, particularly the speed of a collision involving a pedestrian. And so anything we can bring those speeds down is going to make a difference. Of the over 1,200 speed-induced crashes in Montgomery County, 32 resulted in loss of lives, and they ranged in age from 3 on up to 86 years old. So this isn't an old folks problem or a young person's problem. This is all of our problem. This isn't acceptable. Tragedy can happen anytime. We've seen that all too often. And, you know, we've got to stop calling crashes accidents. I like that language because these are actually things that could have been prevented. It wasn't an accident that somebody decided to do something they shouldn't be doing and either didn't yield to a pedestrian, was driving too fast, and somebody got hurt or somebody died. And accident is just not the right word for that. Montgomery County residents have made it clear they want the streets to be shared, and this program is going to allow for that. I also want to recognize the Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, as well as our Department of Transportation, all the other departments and community organizations that are working diligently to make Vision Zero come to life. I've been doing political stuff for a long time. When I was on the council, we tried to lower the speed limits and to increase the walk times at intersections in downtown Silver Spring. And we could not get through to our own DOT the need to extend the walk times because it would slow up traffic. And so it didn't matter that people couldn't get across the street. What mattered was we would impair the flow of the traffic. I think we've changed that perspective. We're beginning to focus on pedestrians and make pedestrian safety the first priority, not the last thing we do, assuming I can keep cars flowing at their previous speed. So I'm very excited about that. And I'll just ask Chris Conklin from MCDOT to come join me up here.
Great. Thank you, Marc. As Marc said, this is a very important program to us at the Montgomery County Department of Transportation. The speed of traffic is a major factor in the severity of the collisions and also whether that collision occurs. Designing safer streets and making our infrastructure safe is a major focus of Montgomery County DOT. We know that when a crash happens over 20 miles an hour, the chances of fatality increase 8-fold. On streets where we have a lot of activity, pedestrian and bicycles, and higher traffic volumes, 20 is plenty, and that's part of building a Vision Zero culture in Montgomery County. Our hope is that these streets create an environment and cues to drivers that they need to behave in a cautious and careful way as they're navigating on these streets and be aware of the hazard that they may cause to other users of the road. The intention is to provide guidance to drivers and to get this message shared across the community and hopefully have a broader impact than the limited streets on which we're deploying this technique. This is a pilot program and it begins today. It is in 3 different geographic areas of the county. We have an implementation in the Long Branch area, an implementation here in North Bethesda, and an implementation near the Germantown Town Center. All environments where speeds are already low, but we are hoping that those low speeds translate to the surrounding roads in addition to the places where we're implementing this program. This is in combination with other strategies and tools that the department is employing to reduce speeds, including speed humps, chicanes, bump outs, roundabouts and many traffic circles, road narrowing, increased pavement marking, the use of dynamic smart speed feedback displays, and implementation of pedestrian and bike infrastructure like the dedicated bike lanes that you see here implemented on Wood Glen Road. Some of the most recent examples of this work are on Brink Road in Germantown with dynamic speed feedback signs, Contour Road near South Lake Elementary School, where we've implemented bump outs to reduce speeds and shorten crossing distance, and then in residential neighborhoods where we are implementing traffic circles and many traffic circles to reduce the speed of vehicles traveling through intersections where collisions are most likely to occur. At our roots, we are a safety agency, and we are doing all that we can to implement these programs and keep serious injuries and deaths from occurring on our roads. But Vision Zero, as the county executive mentioned, takes more than changes to the infrastructure. How we use these streets is critical to the safe operation and reducing the collisions. 20 is Plenty is intended to be a highly visible program. We are conducting before and after studies on these roads and the surrounding network to understand how effective this is, and we hope to be able to expand this program to a much broader section of streets within the county. Personally, I really want to thank the county executive and the county council for both their financial support but also their personal commitment to achieving the goals of this program. And with that, I would like to introduce Council President Tom Hucker.
Thanks so much, Chris. Barry, you picked a great day for an outdoor press conference. Well done. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tom Hucker. I'm the president of the Montgomery County Council. I first want to thank our Department of Transportation and the mighty Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, and all those who have helped move this very important pilot project forward. I want to give a special thank you to Chris Conklin. Chris, you've been a great partner always, and someone who is constantly focused on improving safety on our roadways, and as is your entire team. Hannah, Michael, Marc, Wade are all here, and I'm really grateful for their continued partnership in this area and many others. It's great to be here with the county executive. Thank you, Marc, for your support for this, and my colleagues Andrew Friedson and Evan Glass, both of whom are terrific and outspoken and effective advocates for pedestrian safety. I want to make 3 quick points. Marc mentioned House Bill 562, and none of us would be holding this without the long-term dedicated efforts of Delegate David Moon and Senator Will Smith and all their co-sponsors in the Montgomery delegation for advocating and passing that bill. That gives Montgomery County the authority to lower speed limits to 15 miles an hour. And this was necessary because the county gets our authority to set speed limits from the state. And the state has long had a minimum speed limit of 25 miles an hour. So I know firsthand how hard it is to pass legislation through Annapolis. And transportation in particular is one of those issues where everyone has an opinion and everyone thinks they're an expert, but they're not. So for years, when I've had neighbors and friends in Silver Spring and Tacoma Park and elsewhere tell me, Hucker, you say you're on the county council, why don't you stop all these speeders speeding past my house? And they always have powerful, compelling anecdotes about children either being hit or near misses right in front of their house on residential streets from cars going far too fast, partly because of the speed limit being too high. And I've had to regretfully tell them for years, we don't have the authority to lower it. We're hoping David Moon's bill passed. Well, it finally passed after 4 or 5 years of effort. So thanks so much to David and to Will Smith for getting that across the finish line. Second, I want to thank the council, and I can tell you with confidence that our entire council and our Transportation and Environment Committee are very supportive of this program, as we have been for years of David's bill. Director Conklin, this is a great start. I am glad to hear it's going to be expanded because constituents have been asking for this reform for years all across the county, not just in these three areas. Every life is priceless. Every pedestrian fatality is an avoidable and permanent loss to our community. So we can't let any more children or adults be injured or killed walking or riding their bikes or scooters on their own residential streets. So, Mr. County Exec and Director Conklin, I think my colleagues will all agree that the full council is grateful for this launch, and we want to see it expanded as rapidly as possible to any neighborhoods that are requesting it. Third, the council is so committed to Vision Zero. I want to make sure you all know we recently voted to pass FY22 funding that doubles the funding for the Safe Routes to School program, adds to the Pedestrian Safety Project and the School Zone Pedestrian Treatments Project. We also funded the completion of the countywide assessment of safe pedestrian and bike access to all 200 schools in Montgomery County. So that study, when it's complete, will give us objective analysis to allow us to make an even bigger investment in our financial commitment to pedestrian safety next year when we're considering the full CIP. That FY22 budget reinforces our commitment to Vision Zero. Pedestrian safety has long been a problem, long before COVID-19, and it will only emerge as more of a problem as more drivers are returning to work and coming into conflict with pedestrians and cyclists using their residential streets. I'm hopeful this program will serve as a model and be rapidly expanded to keep all of our residents and our neighborhood streets safe. Let me now turn it over to my colleague and our local district council member, Andrew Friedson.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's great to be here as we're transitioning from Zoom to in-person. I appreciate the fact that we kept the room temperature to be exactly... You don't get that at Zoom, by the way. So I'm easing back into being out in nature. Haven't done this in a while, so appreciate you all bearing with me. But transportation infrastructure and engineering is really complicated. That's why we have really smart people like Chris Conklin and his team at MCDOT to help us. But what isn't complicated and what we do know is that speed kills. And lowering the speed of drivers and lowering the speed of collisions saves lives. Vision Zero is about the idea that one fatality on our roadways is too many, one too many, and we can avoid them. We can avoid them with engineering, we can avoid them with better policies, we can avoid them with better understanding by road users to be safe and to keep speeds down, so when collisions do happen, that we don't have those preventable deaths. That's why this is such an important effort and initiative, why I'm so pleased to be here today to launch this in District 1. MCDOT has been rethinking the way that residents gather and travel by integrating shared streets, greenways, and focusing on bike lanes and sharing the street with alternative forms of transportation. The understanding that our roads are for people and all people should be sharing our roads. I welcome this movement and I have actively supported it along with my council colleagues, particularly those on the Transportation and Environment Committee who have really championed Vision Zero and pedestrian safety. Now that we are moving to reopening, we all expect that we are going to have a lot more pedestrians and bicyclists on the roads. We're going to have a lot more cars on the roads. And so we need to be making these changes to ensure that we reduce the number of collisions, and any collision that does happen doesn't lead to a fatality by reducing the rate of speed of cars on the road. In Montgomery County, our next big shift in transportation is really to alter the way that people think about traveling. Not just how quickly we can get from place to place, but how safely we can make sure that we all can travel from place to place and can interact with each other as a community. That's why the council has supported so many of the initiatives that you heard Council President Hucker talk about, along with the Bike Master Plan and additional infrastructure improvements that support transit and promote programs for residents to use alternative modes of transportation. But as we talk about those alternative modes of transportation and an urbanizing county, we need to have urban infrastructure, and we need to have our road users think about our roadways in the type of urban environments that we are creating so that we all can interact with them as pedestrians, as bicyclists, and as drivers in a way that keeps us safe. 20 is plenty is an important way to build awareness about the dangers of driving at dangerous speeds. And unfortunately, although we've had fewer drivers, we've had incredibly dangerous speeds during this past year during COVID. Together with physical changes to the roadways that slow down drivers, enforcement and programs like 20 is plenty, and this campaign, we can help make our roadways safer for all users, pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers, all of whom are at risk when people are driving too fast. We are headed in a really positive direction, but there is a lot more work to do, and I look forward to joining together with the county executive, my council colleagues, with the Department of Transportation to make sure that we get there. Thank you so much for your support of this important initiative, and I hope that our residents will understand that 20 is plenty so we can keep each other safe and we can avoid the next tragedy on our Montgomery County roadways. And with that, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Councilmember Evan Glass.
Good morning, everybody. 20 is plenty, but one life is too many. And that is why we're here today, because the reality is, while we're emerging from this pandemic, over the last year, many people were able to stay at home, yet our roadways faced one of the highest levels of unfortunate incidents in modern time. There were near record deaths and roadway incidents over the last year, and this year is not starting off too well either. There have been 5 deaths on our roadways here in Montgomery County and nearly 200 incidents. We have to do better. And I am optimistic with county government standing here today, from the county executive, the council, the Department of Transportation, and our wonderful and incredible advocates on the ground, that we will make our roadways safer for drivers, for pedestrians, for bicyclists, for everybody. Because our roads are for everybody. And that is what we have to commit ourselves to now and in the future. And I want to thank also our state colleagues who helped produce the enabling legislation that have gotten us to this point. And so, again, this teamwork really is going to help all of our residents, regardless of the mode of travel that they get around our community. And so with that, I want to thank and introduce one of our incredible pedestrian advocates here in Montgomery County, Kristy Daphnis, the chair of the Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Safety Committee.
Thank you, Councilmember Glass. We really should change the name of that committee. I would also like to thank the other council members, the ones who are here and who are not here today, as well as the Department of Transportation, the state delegation, and the planning board. I know that the planning board has also been an advocate for 20 is Plenty, along with the staff that's been working with MCDOT to develop some complete streets guidance that will be very important for improving safety on all of our roadways here in the county. As mentioned, I'm chair of the PBTSAC, the Pedestrian, Bicycle, and Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, which is an advisory board for the county executive and for the county council. The PBTSAC is a group of citizens, elected officials, and government representatives focused on pedestrian and bicycle safety issues in Montgomery County. The work we do supports the county's Vision Zero initiative and programs such as 20 is Plenty. We help answer the call of residents to slow speeds on our roadways to increase safety, along with many other projects and programs that we support with the council and with the county executive. We know that setting and enforcing speed limits are two of the most effective measures in reducing traffic injuries and fatalities. Despite lower travel volumes during the pandemic, as noted in previous speeches, motor vehicle fatalities increased 6.4% in 2020. In Maryland, 569 lives have been lost on Maryland roadways, including 134 pedestrians and 14 bicyclists, several of whom were from Montgomery County or were killed in Montgomery County. Excessive speed continues to be one of the top 3 major factors in crashes, along with distraction and impairment. While I stand here today as an advocate, I think it's important for all of us to be advocates. It's up to all of us to follow posted speed limits and drive attentively. When you're driving in a car, you have control over your situation. And you are driving a 2,000-pound vehicle. A pedestrian and a bicyclist is not as protected. We need to be cognizant and be aware of how we're driving and how we're using our roadways so that all road users can be safe. Only through working together to make behaviors like speeding unacceptable can we influence the change that is needed to save lives here in Montgomery County. This pilot program is a step in the right direction, and we hope to see it implemented on a broader scale in the future. And I will say that 6 or 7 years ago, when I started to get very involved here in pedestrian safety and bicycle safety advocacy, I couldn't have imagined that we would be doing something like this. I think the culture has really changed, and I give a lot of credit to the council, the current council, the county executive's office, the MC Department of Transportation, and others across the county to help to change that culture and to make Vision Zero a top priority here in Montgomery County. The fact is, as others have stated before me, 20 is plenty, particularly on these urban roadways where we have a lot of pedestrians, a lot of bicyclists, people who are just trying to get where they need to go through various modes of mobility. And 20 is plenty because it is safer, it's healthier, it's fairer, it's greener, it's quieter, and it's better for people's quality of life. Thank you for joining us here today to receive this important message. I would like everyone, representatives, to please gather with us over at our new 20 is Plenty sign at the corner of Nicholson and Wood Glen over here as we unveil the first 20 is Plenty road sign. Thank you, everyone.
Anybody else need a shot?